Hey, welcome to Better Assholes. So many things are going through my mind right now. I'm trying to figure out really where to start. Um, I'm home alone, and not really alone, but with the dog and the snake and the rest of the animals, the rest of the crew. No wife and kids. So it's uh it's a bit different. The holiday season, oh excuse me, right through the Christmas here tends to be full of kids and wives. Okay, no. Let's rephrase that. It just, my kids and my wife. So, kids and wives are not, but, yeah, holidays, Christmas, you have your family, obviously immediate family, and they're home for the holidays, they're home from work, they're just having a blast being home, and that gives it, you know, a bit of a warm feeling, but only until a certain time, and then you wish your kids went back to school and things got back to normal. So that's where I am now. Tomorrow's going to be sad because everybody's days get back to regular days with school and work and doing stuff and schedules. And it's hard to fall back once you've been pretty much slacking for December and January so far, right? Well, okay, maybe not the whole January and December, but I mean, you got 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks that you kind of fucked off a bit. So close enough. I'd say 3 weeks. But, that's just how that goes. So, yeah, you get rid of your family and things get back to normal. For a lot of people, including myself, that means probably getting back to eating a normal, regular diet and having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and having it at those times breakfast, lunch, and dinner time. And this is kind of the problem right now, right? People sleeping in, kids doing whatever. The first thing you wake up is play Fortnite and not eat a breakfast until 12 and then want lunch at 1 and dinner at 8. And oh my God, it's just ridiculous. So this goes back to why everybody's at home so often. Why do we spend so much time at home? Like, I mean, the kids went out, the family went out. Okay, let's hop another question here. They went out. Okay, not even a question. Let's talk about a statement. My family went out. They went to the mall. They got stuff to do. Okay. So these guys, they're going to go out and they're going to get food, right? Because it's the holidays. Nobody's cooking. Nobody's whatever. It's past lunch at this point. My family ate breakfast. This is how it works. They'll eat breakfast. They went to the mall to do stuff. They're going to eat lunch, come back, and everybody's going to be full and no time for dinner. Myself, I mean, I don't mind, but I got smart to this because I have to learn that I need to avoid starving. And I mean, while there's food in the house, the hardest part about food in a family home compared to food as in your bachelor pad is that most of the stuff in my fridge and freezer are things that I need to make for an entire family. So what really sucks is that if I want a lunch, especially around Christmas, I'm not going to go in the fridge and be able to make something like, for me, unless I want kind of crappy food, I have to make a fucking, you're going to pull out a full turkey or chicken or pull out, because nobody's buying sandwich meat. Nobody's buying stuff when you're sitting at home, right? Because what you generally are doing is having nice big, dinners. We've been picking at stuff for lunch and snacks and, smoked salmon and, salami or whatever. We've been just, having a good time, taking it easy. So it's a bit different. There's not much I want to eat, and I'm already a picky eater. So there's not much I want to eat in my fridge or my freezer. I don't want to go through trying to make big meals or spend 2 hours making food for what, right? So you probably are sitting there going, "Wow, fuck, this guy's whining." Well, I'm not really whining. I'm just telling you, giving you an explanation. Now this is a quick story. Now we're like 5 minutes in and we're not even on topic of what I wanted to talk about. So, oh boy, I'll tell you something though. This is why this podcast thing, what we're doing is this podcast radio show format. So while I don't really have any expertise in, say, podcasting, I'm playing this as I would on, kind of a radio show in a way. If I had a free reign to it, here's a free reign. Just talk and let's go. And sometimes some people like just, I guess, hearing people's opinions and thoughts and that progress of it. So what you're hearing is not fake. So, I mean, it could be interesting. I could be an interesting person and you could just be listening because you go, huh, what's this guy going to say? Well, maybe he's an interesting person. But I'm already off topic. I already know that because I got some topic notes in front of me. So, 6 minutes in, what are we talking about? Well, about food. And it's just continuing a story here. So, anyways, my wife and kids left me. They went to the mall. More than likely, they're going to get food and they're going to stay there for several more hours. So, this gives me some time to do stuff. Here I am doing a public service here by broadcasting, or what do we say here now in these 2025 days? So I'm podcasting. So I'm podcasting here, I guess, or YouTube podcasting. I'm creating. I don't know what we call it. I feel like I'm out of touch sometimes. So where are we? I am talking about how hungry I am, potentially. Not really right now, but I could see in the next half an hour I'm going to be a bit hungry. My wife and kids left. They're at the mall, blah, blah, blah. Recap. So my option, I have two options here. Now, I could go to McDonald's, which is probably the closest place. Well, actually, you know what? Up the street, they're making pizzas at a pizza thing. I think they're on the weekends. So, okay, so there's something at up the street. Okay. Or I could get McDonald's. Now, I mean, McDonald's for $5, I get a satisfactory meal that I will be okay with. Yeah, a small burger and some small fries and a root beer, and I'm fine. I'm cool, right? I just need something to kind of, touch me a bit. I go up the street, get a pizza or something here at the stoplight, and it's going to cost me a bit more. It's going to cost me about 3 or 4 times more than I wanted to spend. It's incredible. Basically, a small pizza, smallest meat lovers pizza, is going to cost you about $20. And I find that to be pretty crazy, right? McDonald's seems like a great deal, but my problem is I don't drive my main car in the winter because I don't usually drive enough in the winter where it's worth having. At this point, I have 2 cars, so I'll drive one in the winter and sometimes in the summer, but I'll drive the other one exclusively in the summer. And then my wife has her car, so she's out with her car. I moved one car from my other car, and it doesn't have a lot of gas because I've taken it out and failed to put gas in it because it's cold outside. And when you're lazy and in a hurry, you just don't want to fill up gas. You just want to go do what you do. And, hopefully you'll make it where you are going to make it. And since it gets warm, you can put in gas or convenient. So, anyways, getting back to it, if I go to McDonald's, I have to get gas. So then I have to actually pay for gas I'm not going to use. And then I have to pay for a meal. So my $5 hamburger automatically becomes something like $30. And all I'm getting is a hamburger and some fries, right? If I go up the street here and I get a pizza or I get a burger or I get something at this place here, it's going to cost me $20, right? For practically a burger or sandwich or a pizza, everything's pretty much $20 minimum, right? So leave me with a lot of good options. Now, you're probably saying, why is this guy babbling and being a cheapskate, go get some $20 pizza. Well, basically, the topic for this was how dining out is pretty much dying, and there's this lost charm of eating out and wanting to eat out. There was a time where I spent most of my life in, downtown metropolises, whether it was, you know, in California, in Toronto, in Montreal, in Vancouver, like whatever, right? Big places, right? London, England, Sydney, Australia. I mean, some pretty big places. And I've had some pretty great food. Great food at hotels, great food at, you know, uh, nice mom and pop restaurants, at big Michelin star rated restaurants, some of the best restaurants in the world, some of the best food in the world, some of the most expensive restaurants I've eaten at. And I've had a great time because the quality was good. And at the time, the price was, significant, but it was well worth the food. Now, funny enough, you would really think, I mean, looking at today's prices, you might think, hey, wow, this guy went out and spent $300 for a meal or $200 for a meal and wow, talk about here and now, right? When I look back, it's funny. I've actually found receipts from some travels where I wrote stuff off and whatever. And, sometimes you'd be amazed that you could buy maybe 20 years ago the most magnificent meal ever. And you would question if you really wanted to spend $20 on that, 64-ounce steak with a baked potato and, vegetables and whatnot. Wow. Like $20, right? That's crazy. Every so often, I have the urge to buy chicken wings. And chicken wings, I mean, I remember a place we used to go and get 10-cent wings. We'd get a pitcher of beer for $5 and 10-cent wings. And I guess, you know what? Maybe maybe you go, oh yeah, you fucking boomer. I'm not a boomer. That's the thing. And you know what? Maybe it felt weird when I had my parents telling me about when they were young. We could buy a soda for 10 cents. We could buy a bag of chips for 5 cents. You'd go to McDonald's, it was 25 cents for a full meal. Wow. And now we look at it and they're practically, I mean, places like Subway and McDonald's, they've taken some of their basic like sandwiches and meals or whatever. Remember when you had a $5 footlong from Subway and just recently it was about $17 for a footlong? Well, they come back with these deals and they say, "Oh yeah, we're going to do $8 footlongs." Kind of the compromise. But then they do it for like a week or 2 weeks, and you have to have the app, and you have to sign up for 100 things, and you have to sign your mom up and it's bullshit. And you really never get that sandwich that you wanted, right? You realize it's less and less. Last time I went to Subway, it was less choices. It was kind of more expensive. All the cheap options they got rid of, and just it seemed like it was all the expensive options. So you're looking on the menu, and maybe you just want a BMT, but instead you're getting uh, I don't know, something like dolphin and tortoise tiger meat souffle on a fucking ciabatta bun or some shit, right? Like, so it was so needless for some of these things. And, uh, spending $17 at Subway is ridiculous. I've had times where I've taken my family and they have wanted Subway and you end up spending $100 and you go, how fucking retarded am I that I spend $100 at Subway? Like, here's a cookie, here's a chip. Like, you're giving me a combo and you're giving me a cookie and a combo. The cookie's like a 2.95 markup. Are you kidding? So it's ridiculous. What's going on? Fast food's ridiculous. But outside of that, I mean, listen, when it comes to restaurants, we used to have great times. Here's the main point. We used to be able to take out our family for special events, for birthdays, for graduations, for just being family, just something to do on a Friday night, just something to do on a Monday night. You know, it was nice to go to a sports bar with the kids when they were younger, and maybe get a plate full of nachos and watch a basketball game and, yeah, some wings and just relax, it's a good atmosphere, is, good times and whatnot. Now it's bad times, right? You could tell they've cheaped out on the quality of the food. So nowadays you wait forever at a restaurant. You have kind of crappy staff, right? I mean, we've had times where we've gone out and, you're looking out the window and your waitress is having a cigarette and you're watching her have a cigarette and you're waiting to pay your bill or you're waiting for your food that's getting cold. Um, you see it, like, people don't care. So it is, quite frustrating. We used to go out, or, you used to go out younger, and your parents would take you out for dinner, and you'd be happy. It'd be Friday night, and you'd go to maybe a semi fancy restaurant, and you'd order whatever you wanted. I mean, a lot of kids, they got the kid menu items. When you grew up, you'd get that meal that you always saw your mom and dad getting because you thought it was something you wanted to try, you know, and it wasn't too bad. You'd be able to take your whole family out. And I mean, tip, tax, and everything included, you know, you could go anywhere from $20 at a normal family restaurant to, $50 at a fancy restaurant. I remember, McDonald's used to have a whole family you could eat for $10, like meals, right? Um, then those were $15. Now they don't even have those. I think the last time was like $20 for two meals, right? Last time I was at McDonald's, actually, I bought the a big arch for, it cost me I think $17 for the meal, right? $17 plus taxes. That was up at $20, right? For a sandwich, for a burger, fries, and a drink. $20. It's crazy. It's insane, right? So this is kind of the problem. So, I mean, I don't even take my kids to McDonald's anymore because I don't find it worth it for, what we're getting. If you go to McDonald's and you bring it home, it's always cold. It's cold by the time you walk in. So, I mean, then you just bought cold fries and fucking your ice is melting your drink and your burger's fucking cold. Like, and they fuck it up anyways, right? If you ever take it to go. Sitting in a McDonald's restaurant is, there's obviously people doing crack and whatever, fucking heroin at the tables. And, this is always a shitty experience with the crazy homeless people in there. So, it's not a good experience for your family. And then for what you're paying, I mean, if I'm paying $20 for an arch for myself, my son sees that, he goes, oh, I want to save for $20. So I'm $40 deep on two burgers. Right. And then, the two women in my life, my daughter and my wife, they obviously want food too. Right. And so you're looking at, they don't eat as much, but you're still looking at, a good amount for their meals too. And then at the end of the day, it's not really healthy. It's not really nutritious. It's not really, if I'm going to spend the money on it. And I mean, listen, it's not necessarily whining about money, but you're getting your experience isn't good, your food quality isn't good. It's, it's actually insane what you're getting. And then for what you're paying, like when you were paying $20 to feed your family 4 McDonald's. It made sense. It's fast food. It's fast food. That's what you're getting. Once you start getting into, $100 at McDonald's, I mean, then, you could do a lot better than McDonald's. Here's the problem. Everywhere's like this. And some of these family restaurants are even worse. They're actually even scarier, right? I had Chinese food on New Year's Day. And, there's basically I'd say about 3 Chinese restaurants. And out of the 3 Chinese restaurants here, it's like they're all shit. There's one, the furthest one is a big chain, and they're always good. But the problem is that they get overwhelmed. New Year's Eve, they got overwhelmed by orders by like 10 o'clock in the morning, right? And closed down for orders. So that was tough. We go to the number 2 place. All the meat tasted like it was day-old meat. All the rice tasted like it was made a few days ago. This is some of the most disgusting food. The name of the restaurant was called Kimonos. Kimonos. Listen, Kimonos, fuck you. Fuck you for your shit food that you fucked me with on New Year's I paid an arm and leg for. Fuck you guys. I hope your restaurant burns down. Anyways, so that restaurant that those guys should fuck themselves at had the nerve to send me this food that's basically like old food. And so you're talking New Year's Eve is a very important holiday. Well, no, I mean like holiday, but like it's an important day. It's an important event for a lot of people. And so, I mean, for stuff like that, we like to order food. And, it was kind of disgusting that, some shithole Chinese restaurant couldn't even be bothered making fresh food. They basically, and you know how some of these people are. And I don't mean like these people as in like racial, these people. I mean these like fucking lazy ass people who sat there and said, well, you know what? If we make everything a day ahead or 2 days ahead or whatever, then we don't actually have to worry about all these crazy orders come Christmas Day. And, our fried rice didn't have any actual chicken in it. It was shit. I'm going to actually go leave them a review after this. So fuck those guys. Anyway, so a fucking waste of space. And then you have to pay tips. So anyways, let's get back to kind of how things go. So you take your family out now, $100 at McDonald's. You go to a restaurant. So say I took my family to that shitty Chinese restaurant, right? We're talking, you used to buy, say, a plate of rice for, rice was fried rice. So, we used to pay like $5 for fried rice. Chicken fried rice, $6. Beef fried rice, $6. Now it's like $20 for fried rice. And they forgot to put the chicken in it. So you go to the restaurant, and now you're paying 4 times the price that you used to for stuff. Okay. You're waiting forever. You have to doubt some of these restaurants. And so, you heard me say McDonald's a few times. Why do I say McDonald's? Is because a lot of people will say, oh, McDonald's trash. You know what I'll tell you about McDonald's? At least McDonald's generally tends to have higher standards than anywhere else. And when I go to McDonald's, I can see all these fucking people making my food. They got a manager or two looking over them. They have the franchise owner. They have the corporate store. Nothing's going to slide compared to I go to this mom and pop restaurant. It's a dude and his wife. They look desperate, right? The place has been empty for how long? Like and then I look at the reports. And so our region, they have the reports, what they do is they go to the restaurants, they do the health check, and then they post it online. And you could see, I've never seen so many restaurants that don't have running water. They don't have washrooms for their staff. They don't have sanitary fucking anything. They have bugs, they have roaches, they have rats and donkeys, and oh my God, all sorts of shit, right? Listen, it's disgusting, right? The problem is half of these mom and pop restaurants now, they're not busy. These people are buying food. You see kitchen nightmares like that. They buy the food, the chicken's rotten. They just keep it there because they're not going to throw it out. That's their last $100. They need to extend it as much as possible. You know, they got rats, they got whatever. They have kids. The kids don't want to work. I have kids. My kids don't want to do shit. What do you think when you employ your kids are going to show up and do what they need to do and clean shit? They know they got some leverage. They're not going to do their shit. You know, a lot of these places are so horrible and such horrible shape, right? So eating a mom and pop restaurant, you're fucked. Franchises, you're a bit better, but I mean, some of these people, it's like, you know, listen. Recently, I had some KFC a few weeks ago. The chicken was fucking horrible. It was soggy. It was so soggy. It was soggy as fuck. We had to basically fight the KFC fucking employee to give us some breasts in a bucket of like fucking 15 pieces of chicken or whatever, right? We had to fight them to get some white meat, right? For what we paid, soggy ass fries, fighting fucking people for white meat. They give you macaroni salad or potato salad like it's fucking made out of gold, right? The smallest fucking little container ever, right? You pay an arm and a leg for it. Soggy. The chicken's so fucking soggy. All the skin's soggy. The fucking disgusting. We picked that up at the restaurant. We went to the actual restaurant. It was shit. It wasn't like it was delivered or sat in a car or whatever, right? The second time was Popeyes, and it was crispy. It was nice, and we had an Uber driver bring it from all the way fucking far away, and it was absolutely perfect. It was amazing, right? So you kind of see the difference on certain places as well, right? Even the franchises, but you know, outside of the quality, once you eat out, so let's go back to eating out. We're always going back. We're like a time machine here. We're gonna get DeLorean and just go back, okay? Why we're going back all the time? Because I'm not like these YouTube kids that are fucking sitting here editing and slicing, where it's editing and slicing, editing and slicing. You know why? Because this is reality. You got to be able to just talk. The reason that you're listening is because you enjoy this and not because you want information diced up and delivered as like fast as possible, right? You need some enjoyment in your life. I'm your enjoyment. Welcome to me. Anyways, so getting back again, right? Now, part of the problem, we got over the quality and some of the pricing, right? Because you saw inflation drove everything up, huge prices. It's fucking incredible. We looked at the quality. I mean, because you're getting shit quality food. I mean, now you're getting everybody says it. You know, I thought I was crazy. People would say, "Oh yeah," you know. I say, "No, you know what? I'm so done with food because it tastes like shit. Everything tastes like shit." I used to buy things and obsess and just, oh man, this is great. Now it tastes like shit. You know why? Because there's no real sugar. There's no MSG. There's no all the shit that kills you. It's done. And that's what's upsetting because all the shit that kills you is always the good shit. And the most appreciative shit that you could get is the good shit that kills you. Whoa. So, anyways, so no more good shit. So, anyways, food sucks, inflation, and etc. You know, even whack employees. Now, here's the main thing what killed eating out. And I'll tell you 100%. I can get over the inflation. Okay. I could get over the inflation. I could deal with bad customer service, bad waitressing, or whatever. The bad quality food. No, I'm not going to stand for bad quality food. I will fuck you up over the bad quality food. However, this is what I think is the maybe the most frustrating part, right? And that is that now you have all these fees and tips, and it makes it makes for a really, really bad experience. It just makes for a bad experience. You know, I understand. I used to go to restaurants, especially before I had children. And I mean, with the kids, we just don't eat out because I have a slow one kid that eats really slow, and it's just frustrating when you have kids that don't eat really quickly because I don't want to be at a restaurant for 5 hours as my kid just fucking sits there and everybody's looking at her, trying to eat whatever she's eating, right? It just fucking frustrating. So, we just don't get out much for that reason. It's easier to sit at home because you could say, here's your fucking meal. And if you're going to take 10 hours to eat it, then there you go. Like sit at the table, because being in a restaurant, they actually come over and say, oh, yeah, we need this table. Can you leave? And we're just like, you're looking at your kid like, fuck, like, fuck, man, fuck, fuck. It's been like 4 hours, man. Anyways, um, part of the problem with eating out is you used to go, you used to be able to look at your menu. You go, okay, cool. We know what we kind of want, right? You kind of know where things are. So yeah, I want the steak, and back in the days, take steak. It's 12-ounce steak. Oh, $15. Okay, I'll take the 12-ounce steak combo thing. Yeah, with mashed potatoes. Yeah, let's go vegetables. Yeah, cool. Honey, what do you want? Oh yeah, you want steak and the lobster? Okay, cool. Oh, steak and oh yeah. Oh, yeah, it's only $18. Okay, yeah, shit, give me one of those too. I'll take a set of ribs, a bunch of appetizers, whatever. And your head, you're doing, "That's okay, cool." Like, okay, 3 appetizers, my meal, my wife's meal, kids' meal. So, okay, in my head, like, okay, yeah, it's $60, right? Like, like, oh, yeah, it's $60. Okay, and, tax tip and whatever. And I mean, when you're a budgeting person, and this has to do, um, it's not a thing on being cheap or counting pennies or whatever, but it's expectations, budgeting, and whatever. I kind of at some point in my life got into liking to know, numbers because I found myself in a lot of positions where when I didn't pay attention, that's when things didn't add up, right? You go to, you see fees, and if you can't count and you can't do the math, people will slip you a fast one because they'll think, oh, this guy's not paying attention. I'll take advantage of them. And so I used to have people just do that because they saw, a watch I was wearing or a car I was driving, or they assumed, oh, this guy has enough money to, not notice himself getting ripped off. So, I mean, it definitely happens. So, you know, getting back to getting back to it is like a favorite word now. Um, Part of that dining out experience, anyways, that was frustrating was the fact that right away you're expected to, slop on some huge tips. So, getting back to it, the budget, when we would budget for something like this, you'd look at, you look at your budget and then you count it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You look at your food. I used to sit there and say, well, you know what? Some places you'd have your wait staff. You have a waitress. She comes over and she's checking on you every 5 seconds. She's making suggestions. She's making, well, I mean, not checking you where it's becoming annoying, but she's checking you at the right time. She knows when the right times are. Not when you have food in your mouth and you're fucking talking to your family, fucking or whatever. But they know when to come over. They know when to, ask if you need anything. They're quick with the bill. They're la 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 la. So you're gauging this, right? And I mean, 15% was considered a good tip. I mean, anything higher than 15 was like, it was like if you got it or you gave it, it was a bonus. Um, at some point, we went to 18 to 20 to 25%. And so a lot of restaurants now will specifically tell you there's a little fine print somewhere when you walk in and they tell you, gratuity is compulsory or mandatory and it's 18%, 20%, 25%, whatever, and you have to pay it. And so I've caught myself in situations where I go to eat and it's a 20% tip and it's baked in and it really screws up your meal. Now, let me tell you, the tax here is 13%. So imagine you bought, and this is how they do it. You buy a meal for, it doesn't exist for $10. You buy a meal for $100. Let's do that because I like to use these round numbers. Makes it easy to visualize. You buy a meal for $100. Okay. Now, generally, these places, they add the tax to it. And what I find a lot of places do, and I've caught restaurants doing this, and other hotels, whatever, they add the tax, and then they add the tip, and you're paying a tip on the tax, and you go, well, what is the purpose of that? Well, of course, it inflates the tip. So, I mean, isn't that ridiculous? So now, I mean, if you're 15% tax or 13% tax, you're up $113 on $100 meal. And then they come along and go, oh, you know what? It's a $20 or 20% mandatory gratuity. And so now you're 20% of your $113, right? Which is like $22 or something. So now you're actually up at 100 and like $30 or whatever, $135 on a meal. That was $100. So right there, if you've just paid, right, and we're talking like 1/3 of the cost pretty much, right, of your meal. So you just paid 1/3 in taxes and fees. Isn't that fucking ridiculous? Right? Because it makes no sense. It doesn't, if you're a good restaurant, you should just pay your staff. Because I mean, at this point now it's getting so poor because 20% is a lot, 25% is a lot. What did you do for my meal unless you came over here and did unmentionables to me and I was paying for that as well? I mean, if it was some sort of whorehouse restaurant, then I could understand. But I mean, these are general restaurants, right? I'm not taking my family to a whorehouse restaurant. I'm taking my family to a normal restaurant. But what am I paying 20% for, right? Because unless you were standing right next to me the whole time and you were pouring my wine and, whatever, singing to me, you weren't doing really anything for that 20%, right? And this goes back. Waitresses and wait staff they'll listen and say, oh, yeah, that cheap bastard. But believe it or not, I've had a lot of I owned a establishment at one point. I owned a lounge at one point. So I'm very familiar with wait staff. And listen, they're the first people that will complain and swear up and down that the bigger the tips, the better. They need the money. They deserve it. La, 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 la. But a lot of those people that are dying for those tips are some of the crappiest people out there because you know what? Most of the guys making the tips, guys and girls making big tips, are the ones that aren't complaining about it. They're the ones that are providing good service, so they earn it. When you have to force tips, that's where things go wrong, right? Because when you're shit, you're shit, and you're just going to give you tips, and then you're going to, still be the shittiest waiter or waitress ever. I mean, that's where it frustrates people, right? So, I mean, if I go to a restaurant, I'm paying 20%, but I'm getting shit service. I was at the Keg a few months ago, and the service for what I paid for a tip, I mean, the service wasn't, I was like, my arm was kind of twisted into it, right? It wasn't anything spectacular. You brought fucking a plate to me, you took a plate back, and you gave me a receipt, like you brought over the payment machine. So I mean, imagine you paid $30 for that, right? Like to run back and forth. What the fuck, right? I mean, realistically, that's not very good value, right? It's not that you maybe you deserve it, maybe you don't deserve it, whatever. It's not very good value, right? And the problem is that anybody else, um, if they ask for a tip, you lose your shit. If you went to the grocery store and the cashier scanned all your stuff and then held her hand out and said, "Well, you owe me 20% of your grocery bill now because I scanned your stuff," you'd look at her and go, "What the fuck?" But that's where we're headed. That's exactly what's going to happen, because the same people that are sitting there and said, "You know what? I poured a coffee from this coffee machine and gave it to you at a counter. Where's my tip? I gave you a muffin. Where's my tip?" are the same people that are going to get frustrated when they go to Shoppers Drug Mart to fill a prescription and they go, "Hey, where's my tip for filling your prescription?" Right? When the cashier goes, "Hey, where's my tip for using the scanner?" It's going to fuck everything up. Right? So, I mean, that's what you're doing to kind of people on that level. So now at this point, getting back to restaurants, right? There's no purpose. There's no purpose to it. It makes no sense because you're getting ripped off. So unless the food's spectacularly great, and I mean, I go to a steakhouse, I pay $100 for a steak meal. I get a steak, which is not a steak I selected. It's definitely not $100 steak. I mean, it's a steak that I'm sure it probably cost about, who knows, somewhere at like 15, between 10 and 15, maybe $20, right? Like, it's not a spectacular steak, but I go to a steakhouse, I buy a steak, I get a baked potato, I get one tenth of a carrot, and about maybe one tenth of a broccoli, right? Like, I mean, it's literally, you get a little end bit of a carrot, one little end bit of a carrot, and then basically one little cauliflower floret and a baked potato. Now, when I buy a bag of carrots, I think they're like $2. So, and there's like 20 carrots in there. So, I'm getting the equivalent of probably, maybe I'm exaggerating with time and preparation and the cost of the carrot. I mean, it's five cents for a carrot. My broccoli at $1.99 for a broccoli. I got such a small piece of broccoli, and we're talking store prices. We're not talking wholesale. So even store prices, I mean, 10 cents, maybe 5 cents for a broccoli. My meal, except the steak, a baked potato is nothing. 25 cents. They throw out potatoes, feed them the pigs. So, I mean, I bought a steak. You threw in all this shit. Because, I mean, it's literally maybe a quarter, 25 cents to buy and prep and everything. That's maybe 25 cents at best. Right? I'm thinking my meal at the steakhouse was about $10 even. And I paid $100 for it. So, I mean, there's a big 90% markup or whatever, right? Does that work? Is that how that works? Anyways, there's a huge markup on it, right? 900%. Is it? I don't know. It's marked up the fuck. So instead of being, even mark up to $5 to $6 or whatever, we're up $100. Not necessarily a steakhouse fault, because you do have all these labor standards and minimum wage and whatever. At this point, you have to pay people such an extravagant amount to do such a little amount of work that it makes no sense, right? You got to think, if you're paying somebody $17 to basically cut up some carrots, well, you got to think of a better way of earning money, because you can't be giving people carrots. I mean, how long is somebody going to cut carrots for? That's a job that you give to a child, or like, holy fuck, I didn't want to get into that. Anyway, so this is where we're at. We used to have a great time going to restaurants. We used to have cheap food, an abundance of cheap food. It was great tasting. It was packed with cholesterol, salt, sugars, MSG. We all had heart attacks. Excuse me. We had heart attacks. We had strokes. We had hemorrhages. All that food, all the grease, all the MSG and fucking trans fats and solid fats and whatever. It was crazy. We had great times. We had great times with our families, with relatives. I miss going out with friends and family, being able to grab the bill and say, "Hey guys, I'll grab your bill." Now you look at it and you're saying, "Holy fuck, that's like a car payment." Paying that bill, fuck that shit. So things have changed quite significantly, and it's unfortunate because we don't have those good times anymore. Now you have to look at things, you have to budget more, and you really have to think about where your money's going and what value you're getting. When you get that chicken fried rice from that shitty ass restaurant Kimonos and they don't add any chicken to it, you got to remember, fuck, am I paying $20 for rice with no chicken again? Am I that stupid? Never again. Right. And so people are going to be looking at those things. The amount of restaurants that I've stopped going to for stupid things like incredibly high tips, hidden fees. Remember the COVID fees for PPE? Some restaurants still do that. Right. Inflation. There's people, when I go into a restaurant and you can't speak any English and it's not even an ethnic restaurant, I don't want to eat there. Fuck that. Right. So that's how things are going. Restaurants, it's like it's almost a dead space now, dead industry, right? Uber, Uber Eats is going to finish putting that nail in the coffin, and that's it. Because the restaurant's already fucked up, the government fucked them, right? Staffing's fucking them, and Uber Eats and their shitty business model and drivers are going to fuck them even more. I'm Sean Empire, and thank you for listening to Better Assholes.